Ocean of peace, gentle Buddhist teachings, and Zen tales for deep rest. Somewhere, far from any shore, the ocean rests in a darkness so complete that even the stars seem to sink into it. There is no wind tonight. No current pulls at the deep places beneath the surface. The water holds itself in a long, unbroken stillness that stretches from horizon to horizon, and the only sound is the kind of silence that you feel more than hear, a silence so full it hums through your chest as the low note of a bell struck hours ago, still vibrating in the cold salt air. You have been here before, not in body, perhaps, but in that quiet place behind your eyes where rest begins. You know the feeling. That moment just before sleep when the day loosens its grip and the world blurs at the edges. When you stop holding the shape of yourself together and something soft and borderless takes over. That is the ocean we are sailing toward tonight. Not a place on any map, but a feeling, a depth, a return. For over 2,500 years, the teachings of the Buddha and the great Zen masters have pointed toward this same shore. They have whispered the same invitation across centuries and continents, in mountain monasteries shrouded in mist, and in small wooden temples tucked into the folds of green valleys. The invitation is always the same. Let go. Breathe. Come home to the stillness that has been waiting inside you all along. Tonight, we are going to walk together through some of the most beautiful teachings and stories that Buddhism and Zen have ever offered to the world. We will sit beneath the Bodhi tree with a young prince who gave up everything to understand the nature of suffering. We will travel rain-soaked roads with monks who carry burdens they cannot see. We will stand in ancient stone gardens where raked sand becomes the ocean and silence becomes a kind of music. We will meet teachers who say nothing and change everything. And we will hear parables so simple they slip past the thinking mind and land somewhere deeper, somewhere that already knows. These are not lessons meant to challenge you or stir you into action. They are the opposite. They are teachings designed to settle, to soften, to dissolve the hard edges of the day the way warm water dissolves salt. As we move through them, you may feel your breathing slow. You may notice the tension in your shoulders begin to release, or the tightness in your jaw loosen just enough for your whole face to change. That is the teaching working not on your mind, but on your body. That is the ancient wisdom doing what it has always done, finding you exactly where you are and gently, without hurry, leading you toward peace. So let the room grow quiet around you. Let the pillow take the weight of your head. Let your hands fall open wherever they have landed. There is nothing you need to do right now, nothing you need to solve or fix or finish. All of that can wait. For the next little while, the only task before you is the task of resting. And even that is less a task than a permission to stop, a permission to be still, a permission to float on this ocean of peace and let it carry you wherever it wants to go. We begin, as all things begin, in the dark. Not the dark of fear or confusion, but the dark of possibility. The dark before dawn. The dark of a seed buried in warm earth, waiting. There is a man sitting in this darkness. He is young, though his body is thin and marked by years of hardship. His legs are crossed beneath him. His hands rest in his lap, one cupped inside the other, thumbs barely touching. His spine rises like a column of quiet flame, and his eyes are closed. Above him, the broad leaves of an ancient fig tree fan out against the night sky like the open palm of something enormous and patient. This is Siddhartha Gautama, and tonight, beneath this tree, he is going to change everything. But let us not rush ahead. Let us first go back before the tree, before the meditation, before the vow that would reshape the world. Back to the beginning, where it all started with a boy who had everything and yet was haunted by a question he could not name. Siddhartha was born into a life that most people would consider perfect. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled a prosperous kingdom in what is now southern Nepal, and from the moment of his birth, the young prince was wrapped in luxury. The palace walls were high and thick, the gardens within them bursting with flowers that bloomed in every season. Siddhartha wore silk. He ate the finest foods. Musicians played for him in rooms that smelled of sandalwood and jasmine. His father, determined to shield his son from any knowledge of suffering, arranged the world around the boy like a jeweled cage, every surface polished, every corner soft. And for a while, it worked. Siddhartha grew into a handsome, intelligent young man. He married a beautiful woman named Yasodhara, and they had a son, a boy named Rahula. From the outside, his life was flawless. He had wealth, love, family, and a kingdom waiting for him. There was, by any reasonable measure, nothing missing. But something was missing. Siddhartha could feel it the way you feel a draft in a warm room, a thin current of unease that no amount of comfort could chase away. It lived behind his ribs like a splinter too deep to reach, and it whispered to him in the quiet hours before dawn, when the palace slept and the world was still. What is this life? What are we doing here? Why does something inside me ache when everything around me says I should be content? The stories tell us that Siddhartha eventually left the palace. Some accounts say he slipped out at night, others that he rode through the gates in daylight. But all accounts agree on what he saw when he stepped beyond those walls for the first time. He encountered what Buddhism calls the four sights, and each one struck him as a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through everything he thought he knew. First, he saw an old man, bent and trembling, his skin creased like crumpled paper, his eyes clouded. Siddhartha had never seen old age before. His father had made sure of that. The sight of it opened something in him, a door that could not be closed. Then he saw a sick man, lying by the road, his body racked with pain, his face twisted in a suffering that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the physical. Siddhartha felt that suffering in his own body, felt it settle into his bones like a chill. Next came a funeral procession. A body, still and cold, is being carried to the cremation ground. Siddhartha watched the mourners weep, watched the flames rise, and understood for the first time that everything he loved, everything he held, would one day be taken from him. That he, too, would lie still. That even the palace walls could not keep death outside. And finally, he saw a wandering monk, a man with nothing, owning nothing, carrying nothing but a bowl and a quiet certainty in his eyes. This man had given up every comfort in exchange for something Siddhartha could not name, but desperately wanted to understand. That certainty, that stillness, that freedom. That night, Siddhartha made his decision. He kissed his sleeping wife and newborn son, removed his jeweled crown, and walked out of the palace and into the forest. He was 29 years old, and he would not return for 6 years. What followed was a journey of extreme seeking. Siddhartha studied with the greatest teachers of his time. He mastered meditation techniques that allowed him to enter states of consciousness so deep that his body seemed to disappear. He practiced austerities so severe that his ribs showed through his skin and his hair fell out in clumps. He ate almost nothing. He slept on bare ground. He pushed his body to the very edge of death, believing that if he could conquer the flesh, the truth would reveal itself. But the truth did not come, not through starvation, not through self-punishment, not through any of the extreme practices that the spiritual seekers of his day considered the path to liberation. Siddhartha realized, with a clarity that cut through years of confusion like sunlight through fog, that the answer was not at either extreme. It was not in the lavish indulgence of the palace, and it was not in the brutal denial of the forest. The answer was somewhere in between, a middle way. He accepted a simple bowl of rice from a young woman named Sujata. He sat down beneath the broad leaves of a fig tree near the town of Gaya. He crossed his legs. He placed his hands in his lap, and he made a vow. He would not rise from that spot until he understood the nature of suffering and the path to its end. The night that followed is one of the most told stories in human history. As Siddhartha sank deeper into meditation, the forces of illusion rose to meet him. The figure called Mara, a personification of fear, desire, and distraction, launched every weapon in its arsenal. Beautiful women danced before him, trying to stir desire. Armies of demons charged at him, trying to provoke fear. Voices whispered doubts in his ear, trying to shake his resolve. Who are you to seek enlightenment? What makes you worthy? Why not go home to your warm palace and your soft bed? But Siddhartha did not move. He did not flinch. He simply sat, breathing, watching each temptation rise and fall like a wave that crashes and then returns to the sea. He observed his own fears without becoming them. He watched his desires without grasping at them. He let everything pass through him the way wind passes through an open window, touching everything and holding nothing. And then, as the morning star appeared above the eastern horizon, it happened. The veil lifted. The last trace of confusion dissolved. Siddhartha saw the nature of reality with a clarity that illuminated everything: past, present, and future, self and other, birth and death. He saw how suffering arises and how it ends. He saw the interconnection of all things, the great web of cause and effect that binds every living being to every other. And in that seeing, he was free. He was no longer Siddhartha. He was the Buddha, the awakened one. The tree above him, that ordinary fig tree, became the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening. The place where he sat became Bodh Gaya, one of the most sacred sites in the world. And the understanding that flooded through him that morning became the foundation of a teaching that has guided millions of people toward peace for over 2,500 years. The core of that teaching is contained in what the Buddha called the Four Noble Truths. They are not complicated. They are not abstract. They are as practical and direct as a doctor's diagnosis. And that is exactly how the Buddha intended them. The first truth is that suffering exists. The word the Buddha used was dukkha, and it means something broader than simple pain. It includes dissatisfaction, unease, the nagging sense that something is not quite right, even when things seem fine. It is the ache of wanting what we do not have and the fear of losing what we do. It is the friction that arises when we push against reality instead of moving with it. The second truth is that suffering has a cause. That cause is craving, or tanha, the endless reaching of the mind for something other than what is present. We crave pleasure. We crave security. We crave permanence in a world where nothing is permanent. And it is this craving, this refusal to accept things as they are, that generates our pain. The third truth is that suffering can end. There is a state of being, called nirvana, in which the fires of craving have been extinguished. It is not a place you go when you die. It is a quality of mind available right here, right now, in this very moment. It is the peace that remains when you stop fighting with reality. And the fourth truth is that there is a path that leads to this peace. The Buddha called it the Noble Eightfold Path, and we will walk its length later in our journey tonight. For now, it is enough to know that the path exists, that the Buddha did not simply describe the problem. He offered the cure. Think of these truths as a kind of medicine. Not medicine that tastes bitter, but medicine that tastes like cool water on a hot day. The first truth says, yes, you are thirsty. The second says, here's why. The third says, your thirst can be quenched. And the fourth hands you the cup. As you rest here, breathing slowly, let these ancient words settle into you like rain settling into dry earth. You do not need to analyze them. You do not need to agree or disagree. Just let them be present. The way you let the sound of distant rain be present, something soft and rhythmic and endlessly patient, falling on the roof of your awareness. The Buddha spent the remaining 45 years of his life teaching this path. He walked the dusty roads of ancient India, stopping in villages and cities, in forests and by rivers, sharing his understanding with anyone who wished to hear. Kings came to him. Farmers came to him. Thieves and scholars and grieving mothers all came, and he turned no one away. He taught in the language of his listeners, using stories and metaphors and questions that met each person exactly where they were. And on the night he died, at the age of 80, lying on his right side between two sal trees, he spoke his final words to his gathered followers. "Work out your own salvation with diligence," he said. In other words, the path is here. The teachings are here, but you must walk it yourself. No one else can do it for you. Those words still echo tonight, across all these centuries, as soft and steady as the sound of waves meeting sand. Let us leave the Bodhi tree now and travel forward through time. The Buddha's teachings spread across Asia like water finding its way through a landscape, pooling in different valleys, taking the shape of the cultures it encountered. In China, Buddhism merged with Taoism and the native love of nature and paradox, and from that merger, a new tradition was born. It was called Chan. When it crossed the sea to Japan, it became Zen. Zen is the Buddhism of directness. Where other schools of Buddhism might spend years studying texts and debating philosophy, Zen cuts straight to the heart of the matter. Its method is meditation. Its language is silence. And when it does use words, it uses them the way a surgeon uses a scalpel, precisely, sparingly, and always to remove something that does not belong. Zen is also a tradition rich in stories. Some of these stories are centuries old, passed from teacher to student like a flame passed from one candle to another. They are called koans or teaching tales, and they have a particular quality that sets them apart from ordinary stories. They do not explain. They do not moralize. They do not tie things up in neat little bows. Instead, they land in your mind as a pebble dropped into a pond, and the ripples they create keep spreading long after the words have ended. Tonight, we are going to sit with several of these stories. Let them wash over you. Do not try to figure them out. Do not try to extract a lesson or a moral. Just listen, the way you would listen to music, letting the sound do its work beneath the surface of your understanding. Here is the first. Two monks, one old and one young, were walking together along a muddy road. It had been raining for days, and the road was thick with wet earth. As they came around a bend, they saw a young woman standing at the edge of a deep puddle, unable to cross without ruining her fine silk kimono. Without a word, the older monk walked up to the woman, lifted her in his arms, and carried her across the mud. He set her down gently on the other side, bowed, and continued walking. The younger monk watched all of this in shock. He said nothing, but his face was tight with disapproval. They walked in silence for an hour, then 2 hours, then 3. Finally, as the sun began to set and they neared the temple where they would spend the night, the younger monk could contain himself no longer. "How could you do that?" he burst out. "We are monks. We have taken vows. We are not supposed to touch women, much less carry them. How could you pick her up like that?" The older monk looked at him calmly and said, "I set her down at the side of the road 3 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? Breathe that in for a moment. Let it settle." This story, attributed to the Zen monk Tanzan, who lived in Japan during the 1800s, is about something we all do. We carry things. We carry old arguments, replaying them in our heads long after the other person has forgotten. We carry regrets about choices we made years ago, turning them over and over like smooth stones in our pockets. We carry grudges and grievances and worries about things that may never happen. We carry them with us from room to room, from day to day, from year to year, and the weight of them grows so slowly, so steadily, that we forget we are carrying anything at all. The older monk understood something the younger monk had not yet learned. That the act of helping the woman was a single moment, complete in itself. It arose, it was met, and it passed. There was no need to carry it forward. There was no need to wrap it in judgment or guilt or self-recrimination. The moment was over. The mud was behind them. The road was ahead. But the younger monk could not let go. He was carrying the woman in his mind far more heavily than the older monk had ever carried her in his arms. The weight of his judgment, his self-righteousness, his attachment to the rules as he understood them, was crushing him, and the older monk's gentle question was an invitation to set all of that down. Can you feel the places where you are carrying something tonight? Maybe it is a conversation that went wrong, a sharp word you said or received. Maybe it is a fear about tomorrow, a meeting or a phone call, or a decision that keeps circling your mind like a bird that cannot find a place to land. Maybe it is something older, something so familiar you have stopped noticing it, a sadness or a disappointment that has become part of the furniture of your inner life. Whatever it is, just notice it. You do not have to set it down right now. Just notice that you are carrying it. That is the beginning. That is the older monk's question, asked not with judgment, but with tenderness. Why are you still carrying that? There is another story, older still, that comes to us from the Chinese sage Zhuangzi, who lived around the 4th century before the Common Era, and it too is about the weight of what we carry. A man was rowing his boat across a wide river. The day was overcast, and a light fog hung over the water. He could not see far in any direction, but he kept a steady course, the oars cutting clean lines through the gray surface. He was at peace. The rhythm of his rowing and the soft sound of the water made a kind of music that emptied his mind and settled his body. Then he felt a jolt. Something struck his boat. The impact was sudden and hard, and the man's peace shattered. His boat rocked violently. Water splashed over the side. The man's face flushed with anger. He spun around, ready to shout at whoever had been so careless, so reckless, so blind as to ram into him. But when he turned, he saw that the other boat was empty. It was an old vessel, untied from some distant dock, drifting on the current. There was no one in it, no one to blame, no one to yell at, no one to punish. And in that instant, the man's anger dissolved. Not slowly, not grudgingly, but completely, the way a cloud dissolves when the wind shifts. There was no enemy. There was no offense. There was just a boat, drifting. This is the parable of the empty boat, and it contains one of the most freeing insights that Eastern philosophy has ever produced. Most of our anger, Zhuangzi suggests, is not caused by what happens to us. It is caused by our belief that someone is in the boat, that there is an intentional agent behind every frustration, every inconvenience, every bump and bruise that life delivers. When another car cuts you off in traffic, you feel rage because you believe the other driver is being selfish or hostile. When a friend cancels plans, you feel hurt because you believe they do not value you. When your body aches, or your plans fall apart, or the weather ruins your afternoon, there is a part of you that looks for someone to blame, someone sitting in the boat who steered it into your path on purpose. But what if the boats are all empty? What if the people who hurt you are not steering toward you at all, but are simply drifting, carried by currents they cannot see, pushed by winds they did not choose? What if the driver who cut you off was rushing to the hospital? What if the friend who canceled was fighting a battle you know nothing about? What if the ache in your body is not a punishment, but just a body doing what bodies do, moving through time, responding to the 1,000 invisible forces that shape a life? This does not mean that harm is not real. It does not mean that pain does not matter. It means that the extra layer of suffering, the layer created by our belief that the world is personally attacking us, can be gently released. The bump still happens. The boat still rocks. But without the story of a malicious helmsman, the anger has nothing to grip. It rises and falls away, like a wave with no shore to crash against. The ancient text puts it this way: If a man is crossing a river and an empty boat collides with his own, even though he be a bad-tempered man, he will not become very angry. But if he sees someone in the boat, he will shout at them to steer clear. And if the other person does not hear, he will shout again and begin cursing. This is the difference. In the first case, the boat is empty. In the second, it is not. Yet the collision is the same. Tonight, as you lie here, imagine all the boats that have bumped into you today. The irritations, the small frustrations, the moments where something did not go the way you wanted. Now imagine, one by one, that each of those boats is empty. No one is steering them toward you. No one is trying to make your life harder. They are just boats, drifting on the same current that carries you. Feel how the anger softens. Feel how the tension in your chest eases. Feel how the world, seen through the lens of the empty boat, becomes a gentler place. There is yet another teaching about letting go, and it comes to us in the form of one of Zen's most beloved images, the broken cup. A Zen master was given a beautiful crystal cup by a former student. It was an exquisite thing, clear as mountain water, and the master treasured it. Every day, he drank his tea from this cup. He showed it to visitors and spoke warmly of the student who had given it to him. He held it up to the light and watched the world bend and shimmer through its curves. But every morning, before his first sip of tea, the master would hold the cup in both hands, look at it carefully, and say to himself, "This cup is already broken." He said this not out of pessimism, but out of a deep and loving realism. He understood that everything, every cup and every person and every moment of joy exists in time, and time does not stop. The cup was whole now, yes, beautiful now, useful now, but one day, whether through accident or age or simple bad luck, it would break. That was not a tragedy. That was the nature of things. And so one afternoon, when a clumsy guest knocked the cup from its shelf and it shattered into 1,000 pieces on the stone floor, the master did not cry out. He did not scold the guest. He did not mourn. He looked at the glittering fragments scattered across the floor, nodded quietly, and said, "Ah, yes." Then he picked up a broom and began to sweep. The other visitors gasped. Some looked at each other in confusion. How could he be so calm? Did he not love the cup? He loved it deeply. That was exactly the point. Because he had already accepted the cup's impermanence, because he had already made peace with the fact that it would one day be broken, he was able to love it fully while it lasted. He did not clutch at it. He did not live in fear of losing it. He held it lightly, the way you hold a bird, firmly enough to keep it safe, gently enough to let it fly. This is one of the central teachings of Buddhism. Everything is impermanent. Everything, every feeling, every relationship, every moment. The flower blooms, and then it fades. The storm arrives, and then it passes. The pain that grips you tonight will not grip you forever. The joy you felt this morning will not last forever, either. And that is not a tragedy. It is the condition that makes both pain and joy possible. It is the turning of the wheel. It is the breath going in and then going out. When we resist impermanence, when we try to hold on to things that are already moving, we create suffering. We grip the cup tighter and our hands cramp. We build higher walls around the garden and we miss the beauty of the open sky. We say, "This must never change." And the universe says, gently but firmly, everything changes. That is the only rule. But when we accept impermanence, something remarkable happens. We begin to pay attention. We begin to notice the light falling through the window in a particular way, the warmth of a hand in ours, the taste of tea on a cold morning. We stop rushing through moments to get to the next one, because we understand that each moment is whole and complete and unrepeatable. We stop taking things for granted because we know they will not be here forever. The master loved his cup not in spite of its fragility, but because of it. And when it broke, he was free. Not because he did not care, but because he had already done his caring. He had already honored the cup with his attention, his gratitude, his daily ritual of holding it up to the light. The breaking was not an ending. It was a continuation. Another shape the cup was taking on its journey through time. Let that settle into you now. Think of something you are afraid of losing. A relationship, a job, your health, your sense of self. Now hold it in your mind the way the master held his cup. Not grasping, not pushing away, just holding, gently, and whisper to yourself, with all the tenderness you can muster, this too is already changing. And that is all right. Now let us turn from the art of letting go to the art of beginning. Because in Zen, every ending is also a beginning, and the freshest, most powerful state of mind is not the mind of the expert, but the mind of the beginner. In 1959, a Zen monk named Shunryu Suzuki left Japan and came to San Francisco. He was 55 years old, quiet, unassuming, with a round face and a gentle smile that seemed to hold a private joke. He had been asked to serve as a priest at a small Japanese temple in the city, and he expected to spend his remaining years tending to the spiritual needs of the Japanese-American community there. But something unexpected happened. Americans began showing up at his temple. Not Japanese Americans. Americans. Young people, mostly, who had read about Zen in books by Alan Watts and D.T. Suzuki, and who were hungry for something they could not find in the culture around them. They came looking for enlightenment, for transcendence, for something exotic and transformative. What they found was a small man in a black robe who asked them to sit down, face the wall, and breathe. Suzuki Rashi, as his students came to call him, did not try to impress anyone. He did not claim special powers or secret knowledge. He taught the most ordinary things in the most ordinary way. Sit, breathe, pay attention. That is all. And somehow, through the simplicity and steadiness of his teaching, he changed American Buddhism forever. His most famous teaching was about what he called beginner's mind, or shoshin in Japanese. In the beginner's mind, he said, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. Think about what this means. When you are a beginner at something, everything is new. Every experience is vivid. Every piece of information lands fresh, because you have no framework to slot it into, no preconceptions to filter it through. You are wide open, like a child seeing snow for the first time, and the world pours into you in all its wildness and wonder. But as you gain experience, something closes. You begin to think you know. You build categories and expectations. You stop seeing what is actually in front of you and start seeing what you expect to be in front of you. The world narrows. The colors fade. The music grows familiar and you stop hearing it. Suzuki was teaching his students to reverse this process, not to become stupid or to forget what they had learned, but to approach each moment, each breath, each interaction with the freshness and openness of someone who has never done this before. To sit on the meditation cushion as if for the first time, every time. To look at their partner as if meeting them for the first time, every morning. To taste their food as if tasting it for the first time, every meal. This is not easy. The mind loves its categories. It loves its shortcuts. It loves to say, I already know this, and move on to the next thing. But beginner's mind asks you to slow down, to look again, to see what is actually here rather than what you have decided is here. Suzuki used a beautiful image to describe this. He compared the mind to a cup. If your cup is full, he said, nothing more can be poured in. You must first empty your cup. This echoes one of Zen's oldest and most beloved teaching stories. A professor once came to visit a Zen master, eager to learn about Zen. The professor was a learned man, full of knowledge and opinions. As the Zen master spoke, the professor kept interrupting, offering his own interpretations, his own comparisons, his own analysis. The Zen master said nothing about this. Instead, he began to pour tea. He filled the professor's cup to the brim, and then he kept pouring. The tea overflowed the cup, spilled across the table, and dripped onto the floor. "Stop," the professor cried. "The cup is full. No more can go in." "Like this cup," the Zen master replied. "You are full of your own opinions and ideas. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This is not a rebuke. It is an invitation. Empty your cup, not of everything you have ever learned, but of the certainty that you already have the answers. Make room. Create space. Let the new thing in. Tonight, as you lie here in the quiet dark, you have an opportunity to practice beginner's mind. You have heard words about Buddhism and Zen before, perhaps. You may have read books, listened to podcasts, and attended meditation classes. You may consider yourself knowledgeable on these topics, or you may know nothing at all. Either way, right now, let all of that go. Empty the cup. Approach what comes next with the freshness of someone who has never heard any of this before. Because here is Suzuki's secret. A beginner's mind is not a technique for learning new information. It is a way of being alive. When your mind is empty, he said, it is always ready for anything. It is open to everything. This is the mind that does not flinch from pain or grasp at pleasure. This is the mind that meets each moment as it is, without adding to it or taking away from it. This is the mind of peace. Suzuki also spoke about another quality of Zen practice that is deeply relevant to rest. He said, "Calmness of mind does not mean you should stop your activity. Real calmness should be found in activity itself. It is easy to have calmness in inactivity. It is hard to have calmness in activity. But calmness in activity is true calmness." Think about what this means for sleep. So many of us approach rest as the absence of something. We want to stop thinking, stop worrying, stop feeling. We want our minds to go blank, to shut down, to power off like a machine. And when they refuse, when the thoughts keep coming and the worries keep circling, we get frustrated. We try harder to sleep, which of course makes sleep impossible, because trying is the opposite of resting. Suzuki's teaching suggests a different approach. Instead of fighting your thoughts, let them be. Instead of demanding silence, listen to what is here. The hum of the refrigerator, the sound of your own breathing, the distant rumble of a car passing on a wet road. Let these sounds be your meditation. Let the thoughts come and go like clouds in a wide sky, and do not chase them and do not push them away. Just watch. Just be here. This is beginner's mind applied to sleep. You are not trying to achieve anything. You are not striving for a particular state. You are simply noticing what is already happening, moment by moment, breath by breath. And in that noticing, something relaxes. Something lets go. The body, sensing that the mind has stopped fighting, sighs and settles deeper into the bed. The eyelids grow heavy. The jaw unclenches. The fingers loosen. You are already doing it. Right now, feel it happening. Suzuki Roshi also shared another image that is worth holding as you drift. He spoke of a railway track, drawing from an earlier Zen teaching. The railway track, he said, is always the same. Sincerity itself is the railway track. The sights we see from the train will change, but we are always running on the same track. And there is no beginning or end to the track, beginningless and endless. There is no starting point nor goal, nothing to attain. Just running on the track is our way. Do not look at the track, he cautioned. If you look at the track, you will become dizzy. Just appreciate the sights you see from the train. That is our way. This is a teaching about trust. Trust the process. Trust the practice. Trust that you do not have to understand everything in order to benefit from it. The train is moving. The scenery is changing. Your job is not to drive the train or inspect the rails or worry about the destination. Your job is to sit by the window and watch the world go by. And right now, in this moment, the scenery is beautiful. The night is deep and soft. The stars are out. And the train of your awareness is moving slowly, steadily, toward rest. Now let us step out of the train and into a garden. Not just any garden, but one of the most extraordinary and mysterious creations in the history of human art. Let us visit a Zen garden. Imagine a rectangular space, perhaps 50 feet by 20, enclosed on 3 sides by low earthen walls topped with tiles, and on the 4th side by the wooden veranda of a temple. The floor of this space is covered in fine white gravel, raked into long, parallel lines that run the length of the garden like waves frozen in the act of rolling towards shore. Rising from this sea of stone are 15 rocks, arranged in 5 groups of varying sizes, each group surrounded by a small patch of deep green moss. That is it. That is the entire garden. No flowers, no flowing water, no trees, no color beyond the white of the gravel, the gray of the rocks, and the green of the moss. It is one of the most visited and photographed places in Japan, and people travel from every corner of the world to sit on that wooden veranda and stare at this seemingly simple arrangement of stone and sand. This is Ryoan-ji, the temple of the peaceful dragon, and it has been sitting in the northwest corner of Kyoto for over 500 years. No one knows exactly who designed it or what it was meant to represent. Some scholars have suggested that the rocks symbolize islands in a vast ocean. Others see mountain peaks rising above clouds. Others have proposed that the arrangement depicts a mother tiger swimming with her cubs, a traditional symbol of protection and care. But the garden historian Gunter Nitschke offered perhaps the most accurate interpretation when he wrote that the garden does not symbolize anything. It does not represent a natural beauty found in the real or mythical world. It is an abstract composition of natural objects in space, and its function is to stimulate meditation. This is the genius of the Zen garden. It gives your mind nothing to hold on to, and in that absence, the mind begins to let go. The tradition of dry landscape gardens, or karasansui, emerged during the Muromachi period, which stretched from 1336 to 1573. This was a time of enormous cultural creativity in Japan, a period when Zen Buddhism was shaping every corner of Japanese life, from architecture to poetry to the way people drank tea. Zen monks, seeking to create environments that supported deep meditation, began stripping their temple gardens of everything ornamental. Where earlier Japanese gardens had featured ponds, streams, bridges, and elaborate plantings, the new Zen gardens removed all of this. What remained was rock and sand, permanence and change, stillness and movement. The white gravel in a Zen garden represents water. Not literal water, but the idea of water, its vastness, its depth, its endless capacity to reflect and to cleanse. The raking of this gravel into patterns, straight lines for calm water, wavy lines for currents, concentric circles around the rocks for ripples, is itself a form of meditation. Monks would rise before dawn to rake the sand, and the act of raking, the slow, careful, rhythmic movement of the wooden rake through the fine gravel, became a practice as profound as any seated meditation. Each stroke of the rake required full attention. Each line had to be straight, even, precise. The mind could not wander. The body could not rush. The whole being was gathered into a single act. And then, when the raking was done and the monk stepped back to view his work, something remarkable would happen. The garden would seem to breathe. The raked lines would catch the light and shimmer like actual water. The rocks would seem to float. The moss would glow, and the monk would see, in this simple arrangement of mineral and vegetable, a perfect expression of the universe in miniature. Not because the garden was trying to be the universe, but because the monk's mind, emptied by the discipline of raking, was finally clear enough to see. The rocks in a Zen garden are not chosen carelessly. Each one is selected for its character, its shape, its texture, the way it catches light and shadow. In Japanese garden design, rocks are considered the bones of the earth, the permanent structure around which everything else flows and changes. They are placed with extraordinary care, often partially buried so they appear to have been there forever, rising from the ground the way mountains rise from the plain. There is a teaching in the placement of rocks. Some stand upright, reaching toward the sky. Others lie flat, resting against the earth. Some lean against their neighbors. Some stand alone, and in their arrangement, you can see the whole of human life reflected, the striving and the resting, the togetherness and the solitude, the reaching upward and the settling down. The empty space in a Zen garden is just as important as the filled space. In fact, it may be more important. In Japanese aesthetics, this concept is called ma, and it refers to the gap, the pause, the interval between things. It is the silence between notes that gives music its shape. It is the white space on a page that allows the words to breathe. It is the moment between your exhale and your next inhale, that tiny pause where the body is perfectly still and the breath has not yet decided which way to go. In a Zen garden, the vast expanse of white gravel is ma. It is the emptiness that gives the rocks their meaning. Without the space around them, the rocks would be just rocks. But surrounded by all that deliberate, carefully maintained emptiness, each rock becomes a world. There is another famous Zen garden worth visiting in our minds tonight. It sits within the temple complex of Daisen-in, also in Kyoto, and it tells a story. Unlike Ryoan-ji, which is abstract and open to interpretation, the garden at Daisen-in is a narrative in stone. It begins in one corner with a tall, vertical rock arrangement that represents a waterfall. Gravel flows from the base of this waterfall like a river, winding between rocks that represent cliffs and boulders. The river narrows through a channel, widens into what appears to be a pond, and then flows out into a vast, open expanse of raked sand that stretches to the garden wall. Scholars have interpreted this garden as a metaphor for the journey of life. The waterfall is birth, the powerful rush of entering the world. The river is life itself, with its twists and turns, its narrow passages and wide, calm stretches. The rocks along its banks are the obstacles and challenges that shape the current. And the open expanse at the end, that wide, still sea of sand, is death. Or perhaps it is peace. Or perhaps, in the Zen way of seeing, it is both at once. To sit before this garden is to see your own life laid out in stone. The busy, churning beginning. The middle passages are where the current slows and deepens. And the vast openness that waits at the end, not threatening but inviting. Like the ocean waiting for the river to come home. You are somewhere on that river right now. Maybe you are in the rapids, where the water is fast and the rocks are close, and every moment requires your full attention. Maybe you are in a calm stretch, where the banks are green and the sky is wide, and you have time to look around. Maybe you are nearing the wide part, where the current slows and the water spreads, and something larger begins to make itself known. Wherever you are, the garden tells you this. The river knows where it is going. You do not have to steer. You do not have to paddle. You do not have to figure out the route. The water knows. Trust it. Let it carry you. Close your eyes now, if they are not already closed, and picture a Zen garden. Your garden. It does not have to look like Ryoan-ji or Daisen-in. It can be any shape, any size. Fill it with whatever feels right. 1 rock or 100, moss or no moss, raked lines or smooth, undisturbed sand. Make it yours. Now imagine yourself sitting at the edge of this garden, on a warm wooden veranda, with a cup of tea in your hands. The morning is early. The light is soft. A single bird sings somewhere beyond the garden wall, and you are doing nothing. Not meditating, not thinking, not planning, just sitting. Just breathing, just looking at the garden with eyes that expect nothing and accept everything. This is the peace that the Zen masters built into their gardens. This is the peace that waits in the white space between your thoughts. This is the peace that you are sinking into right now, breath by breath, moment by moment, like water seeping into warm sand. Stay here for a while. There is no rush. The garden will be here when you come back. Before we travel deeper, let us linger a moment longer in the world of Zen stories. There are a few more tales that belong to this night, stories that have been smoothed by centuries of telling the way river stones are smoothed by water, and their beauty lies not in their complexity, but in their simplicity. There is a story about a Zen master named Ryokan, who lived in the late 1700s and early 1800s in Japan. Ryokan was not a typical Zen priest. He ran no temple. He had no disciples. He owned almost nothing. He lived alone in a small hut at the foot of a mountain, writing poetry, practicing calligraphy, and meditating. When he needed food, he would walk to the nearby village with his begging bowl, and people would fill it, not because he demanded it, but because his presence was so gentle, so unassuming, so quietly radiant that people felt better just being near him. Ryokan was famous for playing with children. He would join their games of hide and seek in the tall grass and their ball-bouncing contests in the dusty lanes. And he played with such wholehearted joy that the children treated him as one of their own. He was a grown man, a monk, a scholar who could read and write in classical Chinese. And yet he found his deepest happiness in the company of children, because children live in a beginner's mind without having to try. They do not analyze joy. They do not question play. They do not hold back. One evening, a thief broke into Ryokan's hut while the monk was away. The thief searched the place but found nothing worth stealing. The hut was bare. A few books, a writing brush, a blanket. That was all. When Ryokan returned and discovered what had happened, he was not angry. He was sad, not for himself, but for the thief. "Poor fellow," he said. "I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." He looked up at the full moon hanging over the mountain, its light pouring through the open window of his hut like silver water, and he wrote a poem about it. The thief had come looking for something of value and had left empty-handed. But the most valuable thing in the hut, the moonlight, could not be stolen. It was free, and it was everywhere, and no amount of taking could diminish it. This story carries a teaching about abundance and scarcity. So much of our suffering comes from the belief that there is not enough. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough love, not enough security. We hoard and protect and worry, building walls around the little we have, convinced that if we let our guard down for a moment, someone will take what is ours. But what if the most valuable things in life are like moonlight? What if they cannot be stolen because they cannot be owned? What if peace, joy, love, and presence are not resources that deplete with use, but qualities that grow the more they are shared? What if the richest person in the room is not the one with the most possessions, but the one with the most awareness? The one who can look up at any moment and see the moon. Ryokan saw the moon. That was his wealth. And tonight, whatever your circumstances, you can see it too. Not the literal moon, though if it is shining through your window, that is a gift worth receiving. The metaphorical moon, the light that is always present, even when clouds cover it. The peace that is always available, even when the mind is noisy. The beauty that is always here, even when you have forgotten to look. There is another story from the Zen tradition that touches on the same theme, and it involves a meeting between a student and a teacher that did not go as planned. A young student came to a Zen master and asked, in all earnestness, "What is the most important thing in the world?" The master thought for a moment and then wrote a single word on a piece of paper. The word was attention. The student looked at the paper, puzzled. "Is that all?" he asked. "Can you elaborate?" The master took the paper back, thought again, and wrote 3 words. Attention, attention, attention. That is the whole of Zen in 3 words. Pay attention. Not attention divided among 6 screens and 12 tasks and 100 worries. Not the scattered, fragmented attention of a mind that is always somewhere else. Deep attention, full attention, the kind of attention that brings your whole being to bear on a single moment, a single breath, a single sight or sound. When you pay attention in this way, something happens that words struggle to describe. The world becomes vivid. Colors deepen. Sounds sharpen. The ordinary reveals itself as extraordinary. A glass of water becomes a miracle of clarity and light. The feeling of a breeze on your skin becomes an event of profound intimacy between your body and the air. The face of someone you love becomes so detailed, so particular, so irreplaceable that your heart swells with a gratitude you did not know was there. This is not a special state. It is not a mystical experience reserved for monks and masters. It is the natural state of the human mind when it is not distracted. It is what you were born with, before the world taught you to multitask and hurry and skim. It is still there, beneath the noise, waiting for you to come home to it. And tonight, in the quiet of your room, you have an extraordinary opportunity to practice this kind of attention. Not attention to a task or a problem. Attention to rest itself. Attention to the feeling of being alive. Attention to the small, exquisite details of this moment. The texture of the sheet against your palm. The way the air cools as it enters your nostrils. The soft weight of your own body settling into the bed like a boat settling into calm water. Let us sit with one more story before we continue. This one is about Hakuin, one of the most influential Zen masters in Japanese history, who lived in the 1700s. Hakuin was known for his intense practice and his sharp wit, but he was also known for a teaching he called the sound of one hand. But tonight we will share a different story about Hakuin, one that speaks more gently to this hour. A samurai warrior came to Hakuin and demanded to know the truth about heaven and hell. Are they real places? The samurai asked, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Hakuin looked the samurai up and down and said, with deliberate disdain, "Why would I waste my time teaching a foolish, ugly brute like you? You are nothing but a common thug." The samurai's face darkened with rage. His hand tightened on the sword. He began to draw the blade from its sheath, ready to strike the monk down. At that moment, Hakuin raised his hand and said, very quietly, "That is hell." The samurai froze. The words hit him like cold water. He saw, in a flash of clarity, what had just happened. His anger, his pride, his readiness to kill, these were hell. Not a place underground where the wicked are punished, but a state of mind, here and now, in this room, in this body, burning him alive from the inside. Slowly, the samurai slid his sword back into its sheath. His shoulders dropped. His face softened. Tears formed in his eyes as the rage dissolved, and something else took its place, something warm and open and very, very quiet. Hakuin smiled and said, "And that is heaven. Heaven and hell, this story teaches, are not distant destinations. They are not rewards and punishments doled out after death by some cosmic judge. They are states of mind that we create, moment by moment, through our choices, our reactions, our relationship with our own inner life. Every time you choose anger, you build a little hell. Every time you choose compassion, you build a little heaven. Every time you grip tighter, the flames rise. Every time you let go, the flames die down and something cool and peaceful takes their place. Right now, in this moment, you have the power to choose heaven, not by doing anything grand or difficult, not by solving any problems or making any plans, simply by letting go of whatever hell you have been carrying, the argument you replay in your mind, the worry that circles like a hawk over the same patch of ground, the self-criticism that gnaws at you in the dark hours. Let it go. Set it down. The samurai put his sword back in its sheath. You can put yours down too. And in the space that opens, in the cool clearing where the fire used to be, something grows. something green and quiet and very old, something that has been waiting for you, patient as stone, tender as rain. That something is peace, and it is yours. It has always been yours. You just needed someone to point at it and say, look, there it is. That, right there. There is one more dimension to this teaching about attention and peace that deserves exploration tonight. And it comes from a tradition within Zen that emphasizes the deep connection between human beings and the natural world. In the Zen tradition, nature is not merely a backdrop for human activity. It is a teacher. The mountains and rivers, the birds and insects, the wind and rain, all of these are expressions of the same reality that the Buddha saw under the Bodhi tree. They are the Dharma made visible. When Dogen said that walls and fences and tiles and pebbles can preach the Dharma, he was not speaking metaphorically. He meant that if you pay attention, really pay attention, the natural world will teach you everything you need to know about impermanence, interconnection, and the nature of mind. Think about water. Water does not resist. It does not push against the rocks in the stream. It flows around them. It finds the path of least resistance, not out of weakness, but out of a wisdom that is older than thought. It adapts to every container. Pour it into a cup, and it becomes a cup. Pour it into a river, and it becomes a river. Pour it into the ocean, and it becomes the ocean. It has no fixed shape, no permanent identity, and yet it is one of the most powerful forces on Earth. Over time, water carves canyons, shapes coastlines, wears mountains to sand. The Zen masters saw in water a model for the human mind, a mind that is rigid, that clings to fixed ideas and refuses to adapt, is like ice. It is hard and brittle and breaks under pressure. But a mind that is fluid, that responds to each moment with the flexibility and openness of water, is unbreakable, not because it is tough, but because it cannot be resisted. It flows around every obstacle. It fills every gap. It finds its way to the lowest, quietest place, and there it rests. Your mind is doing this now. As you listen to these words, as you breathe and settle deeper into the bed, your mind is becoming like water. The hard edges of thought are softening. The frozen places are thawing. The rigid certainties of the day, the I must and the I should and the what if, are melting into a softer, more fluid awareness that does not need to know what comes next. It just flows. Think also about mountains. Mountains do not hurry. They do not worry. They do not compare themselves to other mountains or wonder if they are tall enough or beautiful enough. They simply are. They rise from the earth and they stand, and the weather moves around them, and the seasons change on their slopes, and the centuries pass, and still they stand. Not out of stubbornness, but out of a deep, grounded presence that does not need to justify itself. In Zen meditation, practitioners are sometimes told to sit like a mountain. Let your posture be stable. Let your awareness be vast. Let the thoughts move through you like clouds moving over a mountain peak. They come and they go, and the mountain does not chase them or cling to them. It just sits. Tonight, you are the mountain, and the ocean, and the water that flows between them. You are all of these things, because in the Zen view, there is no separation between you and the natural world. The same atoms that make up the rocks and the rivers and the stars make up your body. The same energy that moves the tides and turns the seasons moves your breath and beats your heart. You are not in nature. You are nature. And when you rest, the whole earth rests with you. Let that thought cradle you as we continue our journey deeper into the ocean of peace. Now let us travel deeper still. We have sat beneath the Bodhi tree. We have walked muddy roads with monks and drifted on foggy rivers with empty boats. We have stood in Zen gardens and tasted beginner's mind. We have played with Ryokan's children and seen the moon he wished he could give the thief. Now let us turn our attention inward to the ocean that lives inside you. There is a teaching in Buddhism that compares the mind to the ocean. On the surface, The ocean is always moving. Waves rise and fall. Storms churn the water into foam. Currents pull in one direction, then another. The wind whips the surface into peaks and troughs that seem wild and chaotic. And if you were standing on the deck of a ship in a storm, you would swear that the ocean was nothing but violence and noise. But beneath the surface, even during the worst storm, there is a place where the water is still. Go deep enough, and the waves cannot reach you. Go deep enough, and the noise fades to a low, constant hum. Go deep enough, and you find something that the storm cannot touch. Not emptiness, not numbness. Something more like a vast, dark warmth. Something that has been there since before the storm began and will be there long after the storm has passed. The mind, according to Buddhist teaching, is the same. On the surface, thoughts churn. Emotions rise and crash. Worries and plans and memories tumble over each other like waves in a heavy sea. And most of us live our entire lives on this surface, tossed by every wave, drenched by every storm, never realizing that there is a depth beneath us that the weather cannot reach. Meditation is the practice of diving beneath the surface, not to escape the waves, because the waves are part of the ocean too, not to make the surface calm, because calm surfaces and rough surfaces are both just the ocean doing what it does. Meditation is the practice of discovering, through direct experience, that you are not the waves. You are the ocean. The great Japanese Zen master Dogen, who lived in the 13th century and founded the Soto school of Zen in Japan, had much to say about the nature of mind and the practice of meditation. Dogen was a philosopher of extraordinary depth and subtlety, a man who could see into the heart of paradox and emerge with a clarity that still shines 800 years later. Dogen's central teaching was about zazen, the practice of seated meditation. But he did not see zazen as a means to an end. He did not teach meditation as a technique for achieving enlightenment at some future date. For Dogen, sitting in meditation was enlightenment. The practice was the goal. The path was the destination. There was nowhere to get to, because you were already there. This might sound strange if you are used to thinking of spiritual practice as a journey from point A to point B, from confusion to clarity, from suffering to liberation. Most spiritual traditions operate on this model. You are here, they say, and you want to be there. Follow these steps, and eventually you will arrive. Dogen turned this on its head. You are already there, he said. You are already enlightened. You are already the Buddha. The problem is not that you lack something. The problem is that you do not realize what you already have. Meditation is not the process of acquiring something new. It is the process of uncovering something that has always been present. He called this practice shikantaza, which translates roughly as just sitting. Not sitting and thinking about Zen. Not sitting and trying to achieve a particular state. Not sitting and watching your breath or counting your breaths or repeating a phrase. Just sitting, being fully present in the act of sitting without adding anything to it or taking anything away. This is much harder than it sounds. The mind, when told to just sit, immediately begins looking for something to do. It wants a project, a target, a problem to solve. It reaches for the past or the future. It generates commentary, opinion, analysis. It does everything in its power to avoid simply being present with what is happening right now. And Dogen's instruction was simply to notice this, to notice the reaching, to notice the restlessness, to notice the mind's desperate desire to be somewhere other than here. And then, gently, without force or judgment, to come back, to return to this breath, this body, this moment, this. Dogen also taught that Zen is not something separate from daily life. It is not a special activity that you do in a special place at a special time. It is the quality of attention you bring to everything you do. When you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you wash dishes, wash dishes. Do not wash dishes while thinking about something else. Do not eat while planning tomorrow. Be here. Be fully here. And in that fullness of presence, something opens. Something blooms. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, not because it has changed, but because you are finally seeing it. There is a line from Dogen that is worth holding close tonight. To study the self, he wrote, is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. Read that again, slowly. To study the self is to forget the self. This means that when you look deeply into your own nature, when you sit quietly with your own mind and observe its workings without judgment, something dissolves. The hard boundaries of the self, the story you tell about who you are and what you want and what you are afraid of, begin to soften. Not because you are destroying yourself, but because you are discovering that the self you have been defending and promoting and worrying about is much smaller than what you actually are. And when that small self fades, even for a moment, the world rushes in. You are enlightened by the 10,000 things. The sound of rain becomes a teaching. The face of a stranger becomes a mirror. The ache in your knee becomes a bell, calling you back to the present moment. Everything is the Dharma. Everything is the teaching. You just had to get out of your own way to see it. This is what is happening right now as you rest. The thinking mind is growing quieter. The borders of the self are growing softer. And something larger, something that does not have a name but feels like home, is beginning to make itself known. Trust it. Let it come. You do not have to do anything to earn it. It is already yours. It has always been yours. It is the ocean beneath the waves, the stillness beneath the noise, the peace beneath the turbulence of your day. It has been waiting for you, patient as stone, warm as sunlight, deep as the night sky. Dogen also spoke about the nature of time in a way that is relevant to rest. He taught that time is not a line stretching from past to future. Each moment, he said, is complete in itself. Each moment contains the whole of reality. This means that right now, lying in your bed, breathing this breath, you are not in transit between what happened today and what will happen tomorrow. You are here, and here is the only place there is. When you stop thinking of this moment as a bridge between the past and the future, something extraordinary happens. The moment expands. It becomes spacious. There is room in it for everything: your tiredness, your worries, your hopes, your sadness, your gratitude. There is room for the sound of your breathing and the weight of your body on the mattress and the soft darkness behind your eyelids. There is room for all of it, because this moment is not going anywhere. It is not rushing toward the next moment. It is simply here, full and complete and infinitely deep. Rest in that fullness. Rest in this moment. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is a particular teaching about sleep in the Buddhist tradition that is worth sharing here. In the ancient monastic texts, the Buddha instructed his disciples on how to prepare for sleep. He taught them to lie on the right side, in what is called the lion's pose, the same position in which the Buddha himself entered his final rest at the end of his life. The right hand is placed under the right cheek. The legs are extended, one on top of the other. The left arm rests along the left side. This posture is more than a physical instruction. It carries a spiritual intention. In the Zen temples of Japan, monks prepare for sleep as they prepare for meditation, with deliberateness and care. Before lying down, they sit on the edge of their bed with hands pressed together in gassho, a gesture of respect and mindfulness, and they silently recite a verse. Going to sleep tonight, vowing with all beings, to calm all things, leaving the mind pure and clear. Think about that. Going to sleep is not just a biological necessity. It is a vow, a commitment to calm, a promise to leave the mind clear. When you approach sleep in this way, it becomes something sacred. Not sacred in a stiff, formal sense, but sacred in the sense of being worthy of your full attention, worthy of care, worthy of reverence. The Buddha also taught that the state of mind with which you fall asleep colors the entire night. If you fall asleep in a state of agitation or anger, those energies will persist through the hours of darkness, shaping your dreams and affecting the quality of your rest. But if you fall asleep in a state of calm awareness, of gentle mindfulness, of peace, that quality too will persist, and you will wake in the morning feeling not just rested but renewed. This is not superstition. Modern sleep science confirms what the Buddha observed 2,500 years ago. The mental and emotional state you carry into sleep affects the quality of your rest. People who practice some form of relaxation or meditation before bed consistently report better sleep quality, fewer nighttime awakenings, and more restorative rest than those who fall asleep in a state of mental agitation. So consider this a form of practice. Not a demanding or difficult practice, but the gentlest kind. The practice of arriving at sleep with intention. The practice of treating the transition from waking to sleeping not as a collapse, not as a surrender to exhaustion, but as a conscious choice to enter the realm of rest with your mind turned toward peace. You are doing this right now, simply by being here, by listening, by allowing these words and these teachings to wash through you. You are preparing the soil of your mind for a deep and nourishing rest. You are planting seeds of peace that will grow through the night while you sleep. And when you wake in the morning, something will be different. Something will be softer. Something will be more at ease. You may not be able to name it, but you will feel it, like sunlight on your face before you open your eyes. Let us walk the path that the Buddha laid out for those seeking peace. We have already spoken about the Four Noble Truths, the diagnosis and the cure for the disease of suffering. Now let us look more closely at the cure itself, the Noble Eightfold Path, and see how each of its 8 practices can serve as a stepping stone toward the deep rest your body and mind are craving tonight. The Eightfold Path is sometimes depicted as a wheel with 8 spokes, and this image is intentional. The spokes do not represent steps in a sequence, where you master one before moving to the next. They are more like instruments in an orchestra, each one contributing its own voice to a harmony that is richer than any single note. You practice them all, simultaneously, each one supporting and deepening the others. The first spoke is right view. This is the understanding that our actions have consequences, that suffering is real but not permanent, and that there is a path that leads from confusion to clarity. Right view is not about having the correct opinions about the world. It is about seeing clearly, seeing things as they actually are, not as you wish they were or fear they might be. Tonight, right view might mean seeing your sleeplessness not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a companion to be understood. It might mean seeing your racing thoughts not as a problem, but as a pattern, a habit of mind that arose from causes you can explore with curiosity rather than frustration. When you see clearly, the relationship to experience changes. The same thoughts that felt like a prison when you were fighting them begin to feel like weather when you simply observe them, impersonal, passing, part of the natural landscape of a human mind. The second spoke is right intention. This is the commitment to cultivate goodwill, compassion, and harmlessness in everything you do. It is the decision, made fresh each morning and renewed each evening, to orient your life toward kindness, both toward others and toward yourself. Right intention, applied to this moment, might sound like this: I intend to be gentle with myself tonight. I intend to let go of the demand that I fall asleep by a certain time or in a certain way. I intend to treat my body with the same tenderness I would offer a tired child. I intend to rest, not as a task to be accomplished, but as a gift to be received. The third spoke is right speech. In the context of daily life, this means speaking truthfully, kindly, and at the right time. But in the context of rest, right speech turns inward. It refers to the way you talk to yourself. The inner monologue that runs constantly in most of our minds, judging, criticizing, comparing, worrying, is a kind of speech. And it can be skillful or unskillful, helpful or harmful. Notice the way you have been speaking to yourself tonight. Have you been kind? Have you been patient? Or has there been a voice in the back of your mind saying things like, "Why can't I just relax? What is wrong with me? I have so much to do tomorrow, and I am wasting time lying here awake." If that voice is present, do not try to silence it. Instead, offer it a different script. "Thank you for trying to help, but I am okay. I am resting, even if I am not sleeping. And resting is enough." The fourth spoke is right action. In Buddhist ethics, this refers to refraining from harmful actions like killing, stealing, and dishonesty. But in the broader sense, right action is about aligning your behavior with your values. It is about doing what you know to be good, even when it is difficult. Right action, applied to rest, is the simple act of lying down when your body is tired. It is the choice to put the phone away, to turn off the screen, to stop consuming and start being. In a culture that celebrates productivity and views rest as laziness, the act of deliberately doing nothing is itself a form of right action. It is a rebellion against the tyranny of busyness. It is a statement that your worth is not determined by your output. The fifth spoke is right livelihood. This means earning your living in a way that does not cause harm. Tonight, this spoke might seem less relevant, but consider this. Many of us carry the stress of our work into our beds. The emails we did not answer, the deadlines we are dreading, the politics of the office, the demands of clients, the weight of financial pressure. Right livelihood, in the context of rest, is about drawing a boundary between work and sleep. It is about saying, gently but firmly, "This is where work ends and rest begins. The world will still be there in the morning. It does not need me right now." The sixth spoke is right effort. This is one of the most misunderstood elements of the path. Many people interpret right effort as trying harder, pushing more, straining toward the goal. But the Buddhist teaching is subtler than that. Right effort is about balance. It means cultivating wholesome states of mind and releasing unwholesome ones, but doing so with patience, not force. In the context of sleep, right effort is the gentle art of steering the mind toward calm without gripping. If a worry arises, you notice it, acknowledge it, and let it drift by. If a pleasant thought arises, you enjoy it without clinging. If boredom arises, you observe it with curiosity rather than resistance. You are not trying to control your experience. You are tending it, the way a gardener tends a garden, pulling the occasional weed, but mostly just letting things grow. The seventh spoke is right mindfulness. This is the practice of paying attention, on purpose, to the present moment, without judgment. It is the spine of the entire eightfold path, the quality that infuses all the other practices with awareness and intention. Right mindfulness, practiced in bed, is extraordinarily simple and extraordinarily powerful. It is the awareness of your body lying on the mattress, the awareness of the blanket touching your skin, the awareness of your chest rising and falling, the awareness of the darkness behind your eyes. It is not thinking about these things. It is feeling them, directly, without the filter of language or interpretation. When you are truly mindful, even for a few seconds, something shifts. The mental chatter fades into the background. The body begins to relax on its own, not because you are telling it to relax, but because mindfulness itself is relaxing. The act of paying attention to the present moment is inherently calming, because anxiety lives in the future and regret lives in the past. When you are here, fully here, there is no room for either. And the eighth spoke is right concentration. This is the development of deep, focused states of awareness through meditation. In the Buddhist tradition, these states are called jhanas, and they are described as progressively deeper absorptions in which the mind becomes unified, tranquil, and luminous. You do not need to achieve jhana to benefit from right concentration tonight. Simply bringing your attention to a single focus, the sensation of your breath at the tip of your nose, the feeling of your heartbeat in your chest, the sound of these words in your mind, is a form of concentration. And as you concentrate, as you gather your scattered attention and bring it to rest on one point, the mind grows quiet. The chatter subsides, the surface of the ocean calms, and you begin to sink, gently, willingly, into the depths. The Eightfold Path is sometimes called the middle way because it avoids extremes. It does not demand that you become a saint or a hermit. It does not require you to renounce the world or punish your body. It simply asks you to pay attention, to be kind, and to live with a little more care and a little more awareness than you did yesterday. And tonight, the middle way between striving and giving up is the path of rest. Not forcing sleep, not giving up on sleep, just resting, just being here, just allowing the body to do what it knows how to do, while the mind, at last, steps aside. The 8 spokes of the wheel are turning slowly now, carrying you forward, carrying you deeper. Each breath is a revolution of the wheel. Each moment is a step along the path. And the path, as the Buddha promised, leads to peace. We have spoken of letting go and of beginning fresh. We have walked the Eightfold Path and visited Zen gardens. Now let us explore a concept that lies at the very heart of Japanese Zen, and that has the power to transform the way you see yourself and your life. It is called wabi-sabi, and it is the art of finding beauty in imperfection. Wabi-sabi is difficult to translate into English because it is not a single idea, but a whole way of seeing. The word wabi originally referred to the loneliness of living in nature, the austere beauty of a single hut on a mountainside, the simplicity of a life stripped of excess. Over time, it evolved to mean something like quiet contentment in humble circumstances. The word sabi referred to the beauty that comes with age and wear, the way a piece of driftwood becomes more beautiful as the sea smooths its edges, or the way an old stone path becomes lovelier as moss fills the cracks between the stones. Together, wabi and sabi describe a worldview that is the opposite of our modern obsession with perfection. Where our culture says new is better, wabi-sabi says old is beautiful. Where our culture says flaws must be hidden, wabi-sabi says flaws are what makes something real. Where our culture says things should last forever, wabi-sabi says nothing lasts forever, and that is precisely what makes everything precious. The roots of wabi-sabi lie in the 3 marks of existence, 3 fundamental observations about reality that the Buddha identified over 2,500 years ago. These are impermanence, suffering, and the absence of a fixed self. Everything changes. Everything involves some measure of dissatisfaction, and there is no permanent, unchanging core to who you are. These sound bleak when stated baldly, but wabi-sabi takes these observations and transforms them into something luminous. Yes, everything changes, and that means every sunset, every smile, every moment of connection with another human being is unrepeatable, unique, sacred. Yes, nothing is perfect, and that means the chipped cup, the scratched table, the wrinkled face in the mirror all carry the marks of a life lived, a story told in the language of wear and time. Yes, there is no fixed self, and that means you are free to grow, to change, to become something you never imagined, because you are not locked into being any particular thing. There is a practice related to wabi-sabi that has captured the imagination of people around the world. It is called kintsugi, and it is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. When a bowl or a vase breaks, instead of throwing it away or gluing it back together invisibly, the kintsugi artist fills the cracks with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The result is a vessel that is more beautiful than it was before it broke. The cracks do not disappear. They are illuminated. They become lines of gold running through the clay, and the piece is valued not in spite of its damage, but because of it. Think about what this means for your life. Think about the places where you have been broken, the heartbreaks and the failures, the losses and the disappointments. The moments when the floor dropped out from under you and you fell into a darkness you were not sure you would survive. Those breaks are not things to be ashamed of. They are not things to hide. In the philosophy of Kintsugi, they are the most beautiful parts of you. They are the lines of gold that tell the world you have lived, you have suffered, and you are still here. Wabi-sabi also teaches us to love the ordinary. In a culture that worships the spectacular and the extreme, wabi-sabi turns our attention toward the small, the humble, the easily overlooked. The steam rising from a cup of tea, the sound of a broom sweeping a wooden floor, the way the light changes as a cloud moves across the sun. These are not dramatic moments. They will never make the news, but they are the substance of a life, and when you learn to see them with wabi-sabi eyes, they become inexhaustibly rich. The great tea master's son No Rikyu, who lived in 16th century Japan, was one of the most influential proponents of wabi-sabi. He transformed the Japanese tea ceremony from an elaborate display of wealth and refinement into a humble, intimate gathering in a small, plain room. The teacups he favored were not the glossy, perfect vessels of the Chinese tradition. They were rough, irregular, handmade bowls with uneven edges and muted glazes, bowls that looked as if the earth itself had shaped them. In their roughness, Rikyu saw a beauty that no factory-perfect object could match. And this is the invitation of wabi-sabi tonight. As you lie here, notice the imperfections. The pillow that is not quite right. The room that is not quite dark enough. The body that aches in unexpected places. The mind that will not settle the way you want it to. Instead of fighting these imperfections, instead of wishing they were different, try seeing them as wabi-sabi. As the marks of a real life, lived in a real body, in a real world. As the cracks where the gold goes. You do not have to be a perfect meditator to find peace. You do not have to have a perfectly quiet mind or a perfectly comfortable body. You do not have to do any of this right. In fact, the whole point of wabi-sabi is that right and wrong, perfect and imperfect, are not the categories that matter. What matters is presence. What matters is showing up, exactly as you are, without apology or pretense, and being here. The Japanese have a word for this kind of radical acceptance. It is yuketamo, and it means, roughly, I humbly accept with an open heart. It is the response to whatever life brings, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the broken. It does not mean giving up. It does not mean that you stop caring or stop trying to improve. It means that in this moment, right now, you accept what is. And from that acceptance, a deep and genuine peace begins to grow. Yuketamo. Say it softly to yourself. Let the vowels fill your mouth and then dissolve. I humbly accept. I accept this night. I accept this body. I accept this mind with all its noise and restlessness. I accept this moment exactly as it is. And in accepting it, I find that it is already enough. It has always been enough. We have traveled far tonight, through centuries and continents, through temples and gardens and the inner landscape of the mind. Now let us turn to a practice that is perhaps the most tender and healing of all the Buddhist traditions. It is the practice of loving kindness, known in the ancient Pali language as metta. Metta is one of the 4 divine abodes for qualities of heart that the Buddha considered essential to a life well lived. The other 3 are compassion, which is the wish that others be free from suffering, sympathetic joy, which is the ability to rejoice in the happiness of others, and equanimity, which is the capacity to remain balanced and open in the face of both pleasure and pain. But metta is the foundation. It is the warm soil from which the other 3 grow, and its practice is disarmingly simple. To practice metta, you sit quietly and direct phrases of goodwill toward yourself, then toward others, and finally toward all living beings. The phrases are simple. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. You repeat these phrases silently, not as a mechanical recitation, but as a genuine wish, a warm intention offered to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend who was hurting. And then, when you have bathed yourself in this kindness for a while, you extend it outward. You think of someone you love, a parent, a child, a dear friend, and you offer them the same phrases. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Then you think of someone neutral, a neighbor you have never spoken to, a stranger you passed on the street, and you offer them the same. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. And then, in what may be the most challenging and transformative part of the practice, you think of someone you find difficult, someone who has hurt you or frustrated you or made your life harder, and you offer them the same. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. This is not easy. The mind resists. It says, why should I wish happiness for someone who hurt me? Why should I extend kindness to someone who does not deserve it? But metta does not ask you to forget what happened. It does not ask you to pretend that the hurt was not real. It asks you to recognize that the person who hurt you is, like you, a being who wants to be happy and who suffers when they are not. It asks you to see through the armor of your resentment to the shared humanity beneath it. And in that seeing, something softens, something releases. The grip of anger loosens, and in its place, something like peace begins to flow. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the most beloved Buddhist teachers of the modern era, taught extensively about the relationship between inner peace and outer peace. Born in Vietnam in 1926, he became a monk at the age of 16 and spent his life working for reconciliation, first in the chaos of the Vietnam War and later in communities around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967, calling him an apostle of peace and nonviolence. Thich Nhat Hanh's central message was this: peace in the world begins with peace in yourself. If you are at war with your own mind, if your inner life is a battlefield of competing desires and fears and judgments, you will inevitably bring that war into your relationships, your work, and your community. But if you can find peace within, if you can learn to hold your own suffering with tenderness and meet your own fears with compassion, that peace will radiate outward like warmth from a fire. He taught that the key to this inner peace is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in each moment. He taught that you can be mindful while doing anything, not just while sitting in meditation. You can be mindful while walking, which he called walking meditation, feeling each footstep as a kiss between your foot and the earth. You can be mindful while eating, savoring each bite, noticing the colors and textures and flavors, feeling gratitude for the long chain of labor and sunlight and rain that brought this food to your plate. You can be mindful while washing dishes, while driving, while listening to a friend. His teaching was warm and practical, utterly without pretension. He spoke in simple sentences that landed in the heart like seeds in good soil. Life is filled with suffering, he wrote, but it is also filled with many wonders, such as the blue sky, the sunshine, the eyes of a baby. To suffer is not enough. We must also be in touch with the wonders of life. They are within us and all around us, everywhere, anytime. He also taught about the nature of emotions in a way that is profoundly helpful for anyone lying awake at night. He compared our emotions to seeds stored in the deep layers of consciousness. We all have seeds of anger, fear, jealousy, and despair. We also have seeds of joy, love, compassion, and peace. The seeds that grow are the seeds that are watered. If you spend your day consuming anger, watching news that inflames you, engaging in arguments that heighten your frustration, scrolling through content that triggers your fear, you are watering the seeds of anger and fear. They will grow, and they will follow you to bed. But if you spend your day watering the seeds of peace, taking a walk in nature, speaking kindly to someone who needs it, sitting for a few minutes in quiet awareness, you are watering different seeds. And those seeds will follow you to bed too. Tonight, right now, you can water the seeds of peace. You can practice metta, even in the simplest form. Just lie here and breathe. And with each exhale, send a silent wish of kindness into the world. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. May all beings live with ease. Feel that wish expanding with each breath. Feel it moving out from your heart in concentric circles, like ripples from a stone dropped in a still pond. First, it reaches the people closest to you, your family, your friends, the people sleeping in the rooms around you. Then it reaches your neighbors, your community, the people in the next town and the next city and the next country. Then it reaches everyone, every person on every continent, every creature in every forest and ocean and sky. You may find, as you practice this, that some of the tension in your body begins to dissolve on its own. This is not a coincidence. When we hold resentment or anger toward others, even unconsciously, our muscles tighten. Our breathing becomes shallow. Our nervous system stays on alert, scanning for threats, preparing for conflict. But when we actively wish well for others, even difficult others, even strangers, the body reads this as a signal of safety. The muscles relax. The breathing deepens. The nervous system shifts from its alert, fight or flight mode into a calmer, more restful state. Metta is, in a very real sense, medicine for the body as well as the mind. Studies have found that regular practice of loving-kindness meditation is associated with reduced levels of the stress hormone cortisol, decreased inflammation in the body, and improved cardiovascular health. It has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety and to help people recover more quickly from painful emotional experiences. And these benefits begin to appear after just a few sessions, not after years of practice. But the most profound benefit of metta may be the simplest. It reminds you that you are not alone. In the middle of the night, when the world is quiet and your thoughts are loud, it can feel as though you are the only person awake, the only person struggling, the only person who cannot find peace. Metta dissolves that illusion. When you send loving kindness to all beings, you are acknowledging that right now, at this very moment, there are millions of people lying awake, just like you. Some of them are in pain. Some of them are afraid. Some of them are simply restless, unable to quiet the hum of the day. And in your act of wishing them well, you are connecting yourself to this vast, invisible community of sleepless souls, each one carrying their own version of the same hope. May I rest. May I find peace. May this long night end in something gentle. You are not alone. You have never been alone. The ocean holds all of us. Thich Nhat Hanh had a particular practice he taught for bedtime that is worth sharing here. He called it hugging meditation, though its principles can be adapted for any moment of connection, including the connection with yourself as you lie in bed. He taught that when you hold someone, or when you hold yourself, you should breathe consciously. 3 breaths. With the first breath, you become aware that you are alive and the other person is alive. With the second breath, you become aware that both of you are here, together, right now. With the third breath, you feel gratitude for both lives, for the fact that you exist, that you are breathing, that this moment of contact is happening. Tonight, you can practice a version of this with yourself. Wrap your arms around your own body, or simply place a hand on your heart. Breathe. First breath, I am alive. Second breath, I am here. Third breath, I am grateful for this life. this body, this breath. Feel the warmth of your own hand on your chest. Feel the steady beat of your heart beneath your palm. You are holding yourself the way a parent holds a child who has had a bad dream. You are safe. You are here. Everything is going to be all right. Thich Nhat Hanh also taught a beautiful practice he called deep relaxation, which he offered regularly at his monastery, Plum Village, in France. In this practice, practitioners would lie down and systematically bring awareness and gratitude to each part of the body, from the hair on the head to the soles of the feet. He would speak in a slow, gentle voice, and the room full of retreatants, many of whom had not truly rested in months or years, would sink into a state of profound peace. He taught that the body has its own wisdom, that every cell knows how to heal, how to restore, how to return to balance. Our job, he said, is not to direct this process but to get out of its way. When we relax the body with full awareness, when we stop sending it signals of tension and urgency and fear, the body does what it was designed to do. It heals. It rests. It comes home to itself. This is what is happening to you right now. Your body is healing. Your body is resting. Your body is coming home. And all you have to do is let it. And like any practice, it changes you. Not all at once, but gradually, the way water gradually shapes stone. Each time you offer metta, you strengthen the neural pathways of kindness and compassion. You make it a little easier, the next time anger arises, to choose tenderness instead. You make it a little easier, the next time fear grips you, to respond with courage instead. Thich Nhat Hanh passed away in January 2022, at the age of 95, at the temple in Vietnam where he had been ordained as a young monk. He died in the same place he began, and in the Zen tradition, that is not a circle but a spiral, returning to the same place but at a deeper level. His final teaching was his life itself, a life of gentleness, a life of presence, a life that showed, through example rather than argument, that peace is possible, not as an abstract ideal, but as a daily practice, not as something to be achieved at some distant future date, but as something available right now, in this breath, in this moment, in the space between your heartbeats. We are nearing the end of our journey now, and the ocean is very close. You can hear it, not with your ears, but with that deeper sense, the one that knows when something vast and peaceful is nearby, the one that recognizes home. Let us gather everything we have received tonight and let it settle into a single practice. A final meditation for deep rest. Begin with the body. Bring your attention, slowly and gently, to the soles of your feet. Feel them, not thinking about them, but feeling them, the weight of them, the warmth, the soft pressure where they rest against the sheet. Now let them go. Let your feet dissolve into the bed, as if they were made of warm sand and the sand were spreading slowly outward. Now move your attention to your ankles, your calves, your knees. Feel each part of your body in turn, and as you feel it, let it go. Let it soften. Let it release whatever it has been holding. Your thighs, your hips, your lower back. Feel how the bed rises to meet you, supports you, holds you without effort. You do not have to hold yourself together right now. The bed will do it for you. Your stomach, let it soften. So much tension lives here, so much unconscious guarding. Let it go. Let your belly be round and soft and easy. Your chest, feel your heart beating, that faithful drum that has been keeping time since before you were born. It does not need your help. It knows what to do. Trust it. Your shoulders, how much have they been carrying today? Let them fall. Let them sink into the pillow and the mattress. Let them drop like stones into still water. Your arms, your hands, let your fingers uncurl. Let your palms face upward, open, receiving. Your neck, your jaw, your face. Let the muscles around your eyes relax. Let your forehead smooth. Let your tongue settle away from the roof of your mouth. Let your whole face become as soft and open as a sleeping child's. Now let your attention rest on your breath, not controlling it, not deepening it or slowing it, just noticing it. The cool air entering through your nose, the warmth leaving through your lips, the rise, the fall, the pause between them. This is the ocean, this rhythm, this rising and falling and pausing and rising again. This is the tide that has been moving since the beginning of your life, and it will continue moving long after you have stopped noticing it. It does not need your attention to keep going, but when you give it your attention, something happens. Something opens. The rhythm deepens. The breath becomes like a lullaby sung by the body to itself, and the mind, hearing this ancient song, begins to let go. Now, in the space that opens, let the teachings of tonight arise and dissolve like images in a dream. See the Buddha sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, his face lit by the morning star. See the calm in his eyes, the stillness of his hands, the peace that radiates from him like heat from a stone in the sun. See the older monk setting the woman down by the side of the road and walking on. See the lightness of his step, the freedom in his shoulders, the way he does not look back. See the empty boat drifting on a fog-covered river. No one at the oars, no one to blame, just a vessel moving with the current, touching everything and holding nothing. See the Zen garden, its white gravel gleaming in the early morning light. The raked lines like waves that will never break. The rocks rising from the sand like islands from the sea. The vast, quiet maw of the empty space, holding everything in its silence. See the cracked cup, mended with gold. The lines of gold running through the clay like rivers seen from a great height. The beauty of the break, the beauty of the repair, the beauty of something that has been broken and made whole again, not in spite of the damage, but through it. Feel the warmth of metta spreading from your heart. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Feel these words not as a wish for the future, but as a description of the present. You are safe, here in your bed. You are alive, here in your body. You are here, and here is enough. The ocean is all around you now. You can feel it in the rhythm of your breath. You can hear it in the silence between your thoughts. You can taste it on your lips, salt and sweetness mixed together. The flavor of a life lived fully and released gently, moment by moment, breath by breath. The great Zen masters have all said the same thing, in 1,000 different ways and 1,000 different languages. They have said it with words and with silence, with poetry and with paradox, with a raised hand and a quiet smile. The teaching is always the same. You are already home. You have always been home. The peace you are seeking is not somewhere else. It is here. It is now. It is the ground beneath you and the sky above you, and the breath moving through you like a river moving toward the sea. Siddhartha found it beneath a fig tree. Dogen found it on a meditation cushion. Ryokan found it in a hut on a mountainside. Thich Nhat Hanh found it in a breath, a step, a cup of tea. Suzuki Roshi found it in the freshness of a beginner's eyes. And you are finding it now, in this bed, in this room, in this body, in this breath. Let the ocean carry you. Let the waves of your breath rock you gently, the way a mother rocks a child. Let the darkness hold you. Let the silence sing to you. Let everything else fall away, the worries, the plans, the to-do lists, the fears. Let them all fall away like leaves from an autumn tree, and what remains is this. Just this breath, this body, this moment, this peace. The Buddha's last words were about diligence, but his life was about compassion. His practice was about presence, and his deepest teaching was about rest. Not the rest of inactivity, but the rest of a mind that has stopped fighting with reality. The rest of a heart that has stopped grasping for what it does not have and has opened, at last, to what it does. That rest is available to you right now. Not tomorrow, Not after you have meditated for 10,000 hours or read 100 books or traveled to a monastery in Japan. Right now, in this breath, in this moment, the ocean of peace is not something you travel to. It is something you are. Rest now. The waves will carry you. And if you have enjoyed this journey tonight, if these teachings and stories have helped you find even a small measure of peace, we would be grateful if you would share this experience with others. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment telling us which teaching or story touched you most deeply, and come back whenever you need to. The ocean is always here, and so are we. Good night. Sleep well. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. The ocean holds you now. Let go. Let go. Let go. And as you drift, remember one final teaching. The Buddha was once asked by a student, in a single word, what is the essence of your teaching? The Buddha replied, awareness. And if you had two words, awareness and compassion. Everything we have explored tonight, every story, every teaching, every practice flows from these two sources. Awareness of what is, without judgment. Compassion for what suffers, without exception. These are not skills you must struggle to acquire. They are qualities that are already present in you, like the sun that is always shining even when the clouds are thick. Meditation does not create awareness. It uncovers it. Metta does not create compassion. It waters the seed that is already there, planted deep in the soil of your being. You have been practicing both tonight. Every time you noticed a thought and let it pass, that was awareness. Every time you softened toward your own restlessness instead of fighting it, that was compassion. Every time you returned your attention to your breath, to your body, to the sound of these words, that was the practice working. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but genuinely. The way a seed works beneath the soil, invisible but unstoppable. Tomorrow you will wake. The world will resume its demands. The noise will return. But something in you will be different, even if only slightly. A little more open, a little more at ease, a little more able to meet whatever comes with the steady, grounded presence of someone who has touched the ocean of peace and knows it is always there. And the next night, you can return here. And the night after that. And the night after that. Each visit goes a little deeper. Each practice plants a few more seeds. And over time, weeks and months and years, those seeds grow into something you could not have imagined. Not a new you, the real you. The one who was always here, always at peace, always awake. The ocean holds you now. Let go.